All right, yesterday kicked my butt. Or rather, should I say, this engine kicked my butt. Let me just come out and say it. I am not a professional engine builder by any means. I've only built a couple of short blocks, and whether or not my head was just in the wrong space yesterday or otherwise, between getting the connecting rods flip-flopped around and having the problem with that saddle bearing dropping and then misaligning the dowel pins on the main bearings, this thing just kicked my butt. Take that as a lesson to you guys. Make sure you're double checking and make sure that everything is as it should be, and make sure you've got a good headspace, because once you start getting flustered, things just kind of go downhill from there. But either way, it's assembled now. We're at top dead center, number one. Everything's spinning properly. It's a little hard with all this assembly lube on here, but there we go. Everything's spinning like it should. Timing gear is properly installed. Everything on the short block is ready to go. I am going to go through, double check the deck height. We're going to CC the heads just so we can check what the compression will be, adjust if needed, and then we can go ahead and get this engine assembled. We're going to work on cylinder number 3, but because these engine case halves have a slightly different step here and here, I don't know if that's just because it's aluminum or they're different castings left to right, but we've got a step here on this side that is not on this side. So I am just gonna mock up 2 cylinders, number 1 and number 3, with the pistons to check our deck height on these 2 cylinders. And then we'll CC our heads and we'll get our compression ratio set. So at that point, I've got to get some cylinders out. So looking at our head studs here, we've got 9 long studs, 3 medium length studs, and 4 short studs. So we're going to have 8 head studs per head. 4 long studs go across the bottom. On number 3, because number 3 is deep studded, it's going to get another long stud, and the opposite side will get a medium stud. On numbers 1 and 2, the outsides will get medium studs, and then the inner 2 uppers are all going to be short studs. So that's why there are 9, 3, and 4 on our studs. We're going to get those threaded in and get started on that. All right, so this is our 1 and 2, so these are going to go 2 short, 2 medium. And again, our long one will go right here. Medium, short, short. All right, good, 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 good. Crankshaft at 90 degrees, which means 1 and 3 are all the way out at top dead center, even though that's the only one that would be firing technically at this point. We are going to completely remove our piston and cylinder. Notice our rings here. We've got top ring and medium ring. Top ring has slight bevel, just that ever so slight bevel. This one is square. So that's the way we're going to reinstall them, but first we're going to take them off. Oh, and the red and the green butt up. All right. That arrow tells us that that points to the flywheel. Not that it matters at this point because we're just doing this for a mock-up right now, but when the installation time does come, that's where it wants to go. All right. All right, so that is our top dead center. 90 degrees. Right there. Now we need to measure how much gap we've got right here. Some feeler gauges. Now, ideally you would bolt this thing down nice and snug, but this isn't a high performance build. We're not concerned with perfection. We just want to give an idea. 15, it's like 60 thousandths. Still apparently more than 60. 40, 50, 60, 70 thousandths. I just can't add up any more shims. So basically 80 thousandths more or less is our deck height, or negative deck height. So we've got 80 thousandths of an inch between the top of the cylinder and the top of the cylinder wall. I can already tell you that as it sits, we're not going to run any cylinder shims to increase that because with this amount of volume plus the amount of volume in the cylinder head, we're not going to be a high compression engine. If anything, you would actually end up decking these and lowering it to increase compression. With that being said, let's CC ahead. Normally, we would want a disc that fits nice and snugly inside of there. Get this guy as flat as possible, and then using milliliters, just fill up this chamber with water until it's basically flat. So we start with 60 cc's of water that's been tinted, and we fill up the cup. Five, 6, 7, and basically 8 with that little bit of remnant here, so we'll call that 8 from 60 will give us basically 52 cc combustion chamber. So we'll take that number. So bore 85.5, stroke 69 mils, deck height 80 thousandths, combustion chamber is 52 cc's. So our engine compression ratio is going to be 7.2 to 1. We have 4 cylinders, that's a given, and this is our engine displacement. 1,585 cc's or 97 cubic inches. Yay, Volkswagen! Lots of horsepower. So anyway, that's how you check your compression ratio. Because the way these cases are machined down differently on each side, I want to make sure we still have about the same. Otherwise our engine would be running weirdly, with half of it having more compression than the other. I also want to get this wrist pin in there, but just one of those things we got to deal with new engines. There we go. A little lubricant. Just because it's tight doesn't mean it's not gonna go. Gotta say that's a first. There we go. Top dead center on inches and just a little bit less deck height. That's just the minute differences in this surface right here. That's such a minimal difference, and this engine's low compression already, and it's not like we're going to be turbocharging this thing and running it to 7,000 RPM. So it's not a big deal, but that just shows that because of that difference in the surface right here versus the other side, that you can come up with 2 different deck height measurements. If you're only checking one cylinder, always check number 3, because number 3 is going to run the hottest because of the way that the oil cooler sits and the way that the engine is designed. Always check your compression ratio on number 3. Set number 3 at whatever you want the engine to be, and everything else should be pretty close. But with that being said, if we look at the cylinder, we can see a whole bunch of metal shavings on here. So we're going to take these and rinse them and wash them, and then we will start by assembling these, putting the piston rings in and whatnot and so forth. Even our pistones y cilindros. All those nice little oil rings coming out of there, or those. And immediately a good bath at WD-40, because you can see those things are starting to rust already. Start by reinstalling our piston rings onto the one piston that we disassembled to check our deck height. Our oil ring, we definitely don't want our oil ring down in the oil. Flywheel that way, that side up. I'm going to set our oil rings. One goes below. Come on. There we go. I'm going to set one horizontal on our wrist pin here. The other one's going to be 180 degrees out over here. It says top, and if you remember, the square one was our middle ring, and just like before, we're going to go 180 degrees opposite. There we go. That's that side. And now that guy's ready to go back. All these guys obviously were already, because we never took them out. Install that there. Pop that in there, and then there we go. Just like to make sure that it's nice and happy. I like to use aviation sealant across the bottom edge here. There we go. Beautiful. Now we'll put that top dead center and do it all again. Just the way they're set on the wrist pin. There we go. Now we can do our push rod tubes, and we can set our cylinder head on, just because you never know what kind of factory these things were in. One, two, three, four. More of my favorite juice. I'll grab that one later. There we go. And make certain that all of our seams are sitting up. We twisty until they're all good to go. Especially the ones in the head. All right, let's give them a little drop. And this will just help our nuts slide down on top of them when they're getting tightened down. And I guess from here on out, wouldn't be a bad idea to tape up all of our holes, etc., so we don't get anything into our engine. All right, now we're going to go through and torque. Let me get my torque wrench. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at 7 foot-pounds. Check. 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 All right. Now we're going to bump it up to 18 foot-pounds. Now we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So X and X, basically. With that, this side is ready to button up. For safety's sake, these are very clean. No gaskets, but we are going to lock it up. There we go. That side's buttoned up, ready to go. Let's go do the other side. All right, this side is just a duplicate of the other side, so I'm going to do this while the regular cameraman's out having lunch. Rookie mistake on my part. I forgot to put in the deflect plate. Those are supposed to go in before these guys go in. And I forgot them. This isn't my, my best engine build ever. But again, this shows you guys what not to do. So now that I spent some time and went through and put our deflect tin in, make sure you put that in before you put your push rods in. Like I said, my mind's not been in the game on this engine apparently, but either way, learn from my mistakes. Put your deflect tin in first. I've never put one of these things together, but just because I have, like on this engine, doesn't mean I'm actually going to do it right, like I haven't done on this engine so far. So let's cut these guys open and see what's going on. Let's give it a whirl. Lots of rocker arms. Hey, more rocker stand shims. I don't believe those are supposed to be bent. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm not gonna have enough. It's easier said than done, I say. And along those lines, I might as well put in some rocker studs. Anti-seizes, steel to aluminum. Anti-seize, please. Drop us some motor oils. Those guys seem really tight here and here. So guess what? We're gonna have to switch out that thin shim with that thick shim and that thin shim with that thick shim. Actually, I don't even know if that's gonna work. Hey, by Jove, I think we've got it. And there's just way too much side play. And everything actually seems fairly well lined up on their valve stems. So to get this guy moved over, I'm going to put a smaller shim here, hopefully. I've got some loose shims, so we're going to try to move everything that way on this assembly here in between. And then we'll work on the outside geometry. let's see, 5/1000. No, I think 4/1000 is the smallest shim in my set. So we've got 4/1000 play, but not 5/1000 apparently. No, we've got 5/1000. Okay. I can force 7/1000 in. And that is as close as we can get those guys to being square over the top of our valve. And I can probably demonstrate this a little bit with some screws. Don't drop those inside the push rods. That would be very bad. So if we look right here, we want to have as much contact area right here as we can. This one is closer to the center of the valve than this one is, but this is as far over as we can get this adjuster, so this will have to do. But at least we're actually getting contact on the valve and not the side. Yeah, nice good contact there. And 5/1000, 7/1000 max. That feels really good. Very little side play. So this side's good. Now we can work on this side. .5/1000, good and snug. So we're going to call this side good to go. This is the point where we'd normally put in our push rods and then bolt down our rocker assembly on top of that. And for sake of this video, I will do it. However, when it comes time to first start this car, we're going to pull off our rocker assembly so that we don't have our push rods pushing down on our lifters, pushing down on our cam while we're trying to build oil pressure. We're going to relieve the pressure off of the cam until we have oil pressure, at which point then we'll put our valves, or I'm sorry, then we'll put our push rods in, then we'll bolt on the rocker assemblies, and then we will go through and crank the engine over for its first time. This product has not been cleaned for final usage. Thorough cleaning of machine debris and cutting oil is required before use. So we're going to do that now. And note that these are chromoly steel push rods. So we're going to set our valve lash at 0 on these, not 6/1000.
You know, if you're in a pinch, you can use these as a reusable straw.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. And just to dissipate all this water inside, throw a little WD-40, a little bit more oil, and we're at bottom dead center currently. So as we spin our engine, we will probably see these valves move a little bit. Or at least these rockers anyway. A couple of those guys. Dabs of oil. Dabs of oil. Oil on there. Dabs of oil. 15 foot-pounds. 0. That's 15 right there. Make sure that all of our rods are in place. All right, let's see if I can crank this engine over a little bit. See if we can watch our valves work. Might be easier said than done because I don't have a grip on this. Just gonna install our gland nut. Intake, open. Intake, open. Exhaust, open. Exhaust, open. Intake. So now, should be really close to top dead center with our screws all the way out, more or less. Yeah, we're all the way out, and those guys should both be loose. Since we don't have any adjustment, we'll put some stand shims underneath that will lift our rocker assembly further away so that these will actually be able to be adjusted and we can set our valves. Rocker stand shims. All right. All right, so we're gonna watch this guy. Intake, come on. All right, so bottom dead center is right there. And we should be able to pull that screw with number 4 at top dead center. We've got play there. Number 3 at top dead center. We're basically looking for 0 lash, which means I can turn the push rod, but I can't move it. And you turn, and if I tighten it any more, I can't turn it. So that is this valve set, or valves. Both of those valves are set. So now with our valves set, good and snug, still spins, no play. Ooh, that might be a little bit more. That might need some thicker shims right there. You would hear that when the engine's running. So we're gonna take care of that right now. And I'm gonna move this guy that way, thicken up some shims, and we'll call that one good. All right, that valve's set, ready to jet. And given that this is a brand new engine, not any part on this thing has ever been run, there will be some wear in, or some break in as you call it. Once everything's run for that first break-in period, we're gonna go through and change the oil. Chances are we're gonna have to go back and adjust our valves because there's coatings all over everything from the machining process and the hardening process, etc. That coating's gonna wear off on high contact points, or high wear contact points, like our push rods, our lifters. So we'll change the oil, probably have to go back and set the valves. All right, so this side's done. We can do all that on the other side now. I've been cranking this engine over using this guy, but we don't have a flywheel seal in yet. And I can't put in, or rather I can't tighten down the flywheel yet because we don't have the flywheel shims. The flywheel's gonna need an O-ring. Just use a little VR1. Remember, we did clean this when we got our end play measurement way back 2 days ago. So that's clean, ready to rock. A little bit more oil, just because, why not? A little bit of oil. A little bit of gasket cinch around our outside perimeter. Our deluxe flywheel seal installer tool. Always makes life easy. You don't want to bottom it out, you just want to bring it just to flush / just past flush. Like that. That's ready to go. Now we can oil that inside lip. And we can set our flywheel on. And we can put our gland nut in place with the washer, but we can't actually tighten it and set the end play until the shims arrive. And guess what? We're out of stock, I'm sorry. They're on order, but they're not here yet. So we're just gonna set that in. Take a little grease. Put it on our pivot bearing. And this will hang out here while we build the rest of this engine, which is going to be fun. I don't care if a little paper gets burnt up and sent out the tailpipe. I do care if metal gets in there though. Stud, 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 stud. What do we do whenever we're putting steel into aluminum? Anti-seize, if you please. Now for those of you that like a pretty engine, you can take some brake cleaner and go through and spray off all of the run-ins on our aviation sealant. There we go. Nice and pretty. All right, so there we have it. 5 boxes of parts, 2. 1 assembled long block with a couple gaskets, bolts, and pieces and parts left over. And yes, with this kit, there will be parts left over. We have a number of gaskets that we're not going to be using. There's a lot of duplicate hardware. We're going to need some extra parts as well. Like we obviously needed some extra shims for our rocker assemblies. We're obviously going to need some shims for our flywheel. But other than that, that was everything that we needed to build this engine in 5 boxes. Not bad. Did we learn anything along the way? Well, I did, but again, as I've said numerous times throughout this series, I'm not a professional engine builder. I made a couple mistakes, maybe quite a few mistakes. Flipping the connecting rods around twice was pretty stupid on my part. Well, once and then back and then forth, but either way, that was pretty stupid. Not putting in the cylinder deflect tin, rookie mistake, but when it comes to engines, I really am a rookie. This is the second engine that I've built by myself, as far as a complete short block to long block. I've been present for many, many engine builds. I've done plenty of top ends, or plenty, but you know, maybe 10 top ends as far as new pistons and cylinders and heads and whatnot. So I've done that probably 10 plus times. So I am by no means an expert. I know enough to get in trouble, obviously. But hopefully you guys took my experience here building this to give you an idea of what you would need to do to build this engine in your garage or your shop. And hopefully this gives you the confidence to let you know that, guess what? It can be done, even when you make mistakes. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have learned something. And keep watching, because a couple more videos, we're going to get this thing fully built into a complete running engine, and we're going to run it right here on the stand. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching, guys.